Hello and welcome back to Transfer Review, where we put silly season under the microscope. Joining me today, for the first time on EFD for a while, it's Joe Tomlinson.
Yes.
How are you, big man?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad at all. Pretty excited by some of the transfers we're about to talk about, to be fair, because I feel like the window is just heating up. It's just bubbling now. Players have got back from holiday, isn't it? Man United obviously confirming yesterday that we have signed Rafa Varane. I feel like that could kickstart a lot of other teams into getting business done.
Absolutely. Hopefully. If you, beady-eyed amongst you would have noticed that I'm in a new room. Basically, I've had to isolate. Grace is now using my office in there because she's got COVID, unfortunately. So we've been forced back into isolation. So I'm shooting from my living room, hence the new background. But it's actually an upgrade. Speaking of upgrades, let's talk about the transfer we love, which is Jules Kounde potentially going to Chelsea, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, this is an exciting one. It feels like it's come out of nowhere as well, right? Obviously, Chelsea, one of the few clubs to have not signed any players at senior level or academy level so far this summer. And then suddenly, Fabrizio Romano, out of nowhere, drops the exclusive bomb on us that they are in advanced negotiations with Sevilla for Jules Kounde. And that personal terms have already been agreed as well on a contract that runs until 2026. Now, of course, Kounde has rejected Tottenham Hotspur quite recently. I think Tottenham Hotspur did agree a fee with Sevilla for his transfer, but Kounde himself said, no, I want to be playing for a club in the Champions League, which, of course, Sevilla would have been doing next season. So I think he was probably happy to stay at Sevilla for another season. To be totally honest with you, if the worst came to the worst and he had to do that. But when Chelsea come knocking, the European champions, with a big bid, big wages, I think it's very difficult to say no if you're Jules Kounde, even if you're waiting for Real Madrid to come and open the door for you, which you might well be because we've seen him linked. I think it was Fabrizio as well, linking him with Manchester United as the sort of backup plan should the Rafa Varane deal fall through. We've seen him linked to Real Madrid, who were potentially thinking about signing him as a replacement for Rafael Varane, but that now seems unlikely. So this deal could happen quite quickly. We've heard a couple of Chelsea players might be involved. Originally it was Emerson Palmieri, that seems to have cooled now, and it now seems like it might be Kurt Zouma plus cash to Sevilla for Jules Kounde, and that seems to be how Sevilla are operating at the moment. Obviously, we saw Bryan Hill go to Tottenham Hotspur for a deal that included Eric Lamela alongside 25 million euros. I wonder whether this will be something similar, maybe a bigger fee, talking sort of 40, 45 million euros plus Kurt Zouma. I don't know whether I would prefer just the cash, I think, if I was Sevilla and then look to spend it on a particular player. But I think Kurt Zouma is an exceptional defender, and if he can stay injury-free, he's definitely going to add a hell of a lot to that Sevilla backline. But overall, like Duke said, we like this transfer an awful lot. You know, at Sevilla, 2 seasons there, he's racked up 88 appearances, helped them to 2 consecutive 4th place finishes. Of course, winning the Europa League as well in 1920s. He's extremely versatile. He can play on the right. He can play in that centre-back role. And if Chelsea do operate with a sort of back five, I'd imagine he is the long-term heir to that Azpilicueta role, to be honest with you. My one thing I will say, Duke, and I want to ask you this question, is in my head, it is a little bit muddled thinking in terms of spend when you sell Tomori, you sell Guehi, 2 young prospects that maybe aren't at Kounde's level, that we all thought were going to be used towards the Haaland bid, and then instead spend that money on another centre-backs. Both of them academy players. That just feels a little bit muddled to me, but nevertheless, Kounde, this is an exciting one.
Yeah, I totally get what you mean about selling the centre-backs, Tomori and Guehi. It felt like that money was going towards Haaland. I think the Haaland deal, most sort of people who are calm about these sort of things realise the Haaland deal. I doubt it's going to happen. I'd be incredibly surprised if it happened now. And they kind of needed to get in another centre-back due to the contract situation of some of their centre-backs. So obviously they've got Thiago Silva, they've got Rudiger, Christensen, they've got Zouma for now, and Azpilicueta. But Rudiger, Christensen and Thiago Silva and Azpilicueta are entering the final year of their deals.
Crazy.
Silva is also turning 37 in September, and Zouma, if he doesn't get included in the Sevilla deal, is expected to be sold anyway. So signing another centre-back, a 22-year-old who has a hell of a lot of talent, seemed like a pretty good idea. And there have been some question marks over his height. He's only 5'10", but actually he won 61% of his aerial duels last term, which was actually more than Ruben Dias. I was surprised to read did at Man City last term. And he is an excellent defender. There's no getting around it. Like there was that excellent performance in the Copa del Rey first leg against Barcelona, of which the highlights were all over Twitter last night. He scored a brilliant goal in that. He completed 67% of his tackles last term. No one at Sevilla made more interceptions. He also ranked second for clearances in that squad. And only Longley completed more passes into the final third out of all defenders in La Liga last term. So I feel like he's a great addition, but I am slightly surprised they've let Tomori and Guehi go to bring in Jules Kounde. But at the same time, high quality, can play in a number of positions, can probably fill in at the right-hand side, as you say. Maybe if they want to move to a back four in future, him and Rudiger would be a pretty good centre-back pairing if Thiago Silva's going to leave at the end of this season. So overall, it's a pretty good deal, I feel. But yeah, I don't know what Chelsea fans who are watching this are feeling about the Haaland deal. Are you like me and Joe? Do you think that deal is pretty much off? And how satisfied are you with Kounde? And do you want to bring in maybe another midfielder? Is that your next port of call this summer? Why don't you let your thoughts why don't you leave your thoughts in the comments below, rather, and let's move on to the transfer we hate.
Alright, moving on to the transfer we don't like, and we've, to be honest with you, put this one in because it is one of the most out there rumours I've seen so far this window. It's Lautaro Martinez to Arsenal. What on earth am I seeing here, Dukes?
Yeah, this feels like a back-page Sun article from 10 years ago. We couldn't believe our eyes when we read that basically Arsenal have made an audacious approach or inquiry for Lautaro Martinez of Inter Milan. And I'm so sure about this. If Arsenal end up signing Lautaro Martinez, I'll get an Inter Milan tattoo on my bum. This is just not happening. Anyway, according to the Telegraph, the Gunners are determined to sign a new striker this window. That is determined on whether they can offload a Lacazette, obviously, as well. Chelsea's Tammy Abraham was their top target, but the Blues are demanding £40 million in fees. Apparently, they don't want to let him go on loan as well. So now Arteta has turned his attention elsewhere, and that has led to an inquiry into the Nerazzurri's 23-year-old Argentinian star. Now, earlier this month, it was revealed that Inter Milan would be willing to sell Lautaro if their €90 million, which is £77 million asking price, was met. But that feels like far too much for the Gunners this window. They've only ever signed two players for over £50 million. That's Nicola Pepe and Aubameyang. And they're set to spend £50 million on Ben White. So surely there is absolutely no chance of them signing Lautaro Martinez unless there are some major sales. And most of the players they want to offload this summer, they're not getting massive fees for either way. Martinez does only have 2 years left on his Inter deal, but he confirmed earlier this summer that he was very happy in Milan. He did admit that there was strong interest from Barcelona last summer, but their financial difficulties meant that deal was off. So he's happy to continue his progression under Simone Inzaghi at Inter. And it also seems highly unlikely that he'd swap champions Inter Milan, who are obviously playing in the Champions League, for Arsenal, who failed to qualify for European competition for the first time in 25 years last season. But, I mean, Joe, we might as well ask the question, why do they want Lautaro Martinez, and who are the realistic options that they could go for instead?
Well, yeah, Lautaro Martinez, first and foremost, is not going to be going to Arsenal, I think it's fair to say. But, look, Arsenal do need goals. They scored 55 last season in the Premier League. That was the 9th best in the division. At the back end, they were pretty tight. I think they only conceded 39 league goals, which is very impressive. So some would argue that rather than spending money on centre-backs, they need to spend money in the potentially creative role in that 10 space, maybe an additional striker. And it's clear that, like you said, they're only going to move for a striker if Alexandre Lacazette leaves the club. And he was the top scorer last season, 17 goals in all competitions, I think it was. I think then it was Nicolas Pepe who had 16, then it was Aubameyang on 15. And usually over the last few seasons, they've been extremely reliant on Aubameyang coming in, hitting that 20 goal a season mark in all competitions. And that is a huge difference for them when he doesn't hit those numbers and hit those heights. And he did struggle at times last season. It is very noticeable in that Arsenal attack. So Lacazette has to leave, I think it's fair to say, before a striker was to come in, because Lautaro Martinez would add huge amounts to whatever club he joins. And I think if he was to leave Inter Milan, I don't think he will, it will be for a club that are competing for league titles and in the Champions League, that's for sure. 19 goals, 11 assists in 48 goals in all games in all competitions last season. He was vital to that Conte side, played really nicely in that sort of dynamic front two with Romelu Romelu Lukaku. And if you just look at some of his stats last season, 2.9 shots, 1.3 key passes, over a dribble a game as well, works extremely hard, nearly 18 pressures per 90, huge amounts of expected goals and assists. I think it's about the 0.8 region per 90. He's an incredibly impressive player. I just don't think it's going to happen going to Arsenal, though. No. I think he's probably going to stay for 1 or 2 more years at Inter Milan, and then maybe look to move on from there. If PSG do let Mbappe go and aren't able to tie him down to a new contract, maybe that's the sort of club that will be looking for a Lautaro Martinez next summer, I think. There are other options in the market. Alexander Isak, probably priced out of a move to Arsenal now. I would have said that Patson Daka would have been a good signing for Arsenal, but obviously he's gone to Leicester. Would have said Andre Silva would have been a good signing for Arsenal at £19 million, but he's gone to Leipzig. I mean, could they go for a Danny Ings? If they let Lacazette go for sort of £30 million and contempt Danny Ings for about 20, would you be happy with that, Arsenal fans? I mean, he is 29 now, but he is a real goal-scoring machine when he's fit, and we've seen him produce really, really well in a very limited Southampton side, who at times lack creativity. But personally, I would have a look at maybe somebody like an Odsonne Edouard at Celtic, the younger options, just 23 years of age. You're going to be able to get him out of there for a cut price fee. You've already got good links with Celtic, having taken Kieran Tierney off their hands just over 18 months ago. So I would be tempted by a player more in that ilk. Having said all of that, spend the money on an attacking mid. That is the key for Arsenal. Spend that money that you're planning on spending on a striker on an attacking mid. I know Smith Rowe signed a new deal, but I'm sorry, it is vital you go out and get someone. Could you get, Aouar might not be the natural attacking mid, but it's certainly going to add to that midfield. Could you go out and, instead of spending that money on James Maddison, maybe tempt Martin Odegaard back for £35-40 million rather than spending that money on a striker? I think that is where Arsenal should be concentrating their funds, not on a striker push, and certainly not on Lautaro Martinez, Dukes.
Yeah, I mean, there was talk about Odegaard, that being reignited yesterday. Obviously, at the start of the window, I think he was quite determined to go back to Real Madrid, prove himself under Carlo Ancelotti, but I saw quite a sad video on Twitter yesterday. I don't know how much you can take from these Twitter videos, but they were, it was all the Real Madrid team training. They're all celebrating when everyone scored a goal except for Odegaard. It looks like he doesn't quite fit in with that squad yet. I don't know what that was based on. Maybe it was just a weirdly cut video, but apparently there is talk that Odegaard could be interested in a move to North London, and obviously Real Madrid are desperately short of funds this year and are looking to sell a number of key players. I saw last night that pretty much everyone is up for sale for the right price, so maybe Real Madrid could be tempted there if they could get someone like a Luka Jovic as well, maybe on loan, and Odegaard back permanently. I think most Arsenal fans would be pretty chuffed with that. But Arsenal fans, how satisfied are you with your business so far? There's talk over Ramsdale, Lokonga's come in, Ben White too. And what do you need another midfielder as well? Joe's talking about Houssem Aouar, Ruben Neves. Has that gone a bit quiet? Where do you guys think you are at ahead of the new season? Let us know in the comments down below. But that's all we've got time for on Transfer Review for this week. Joe, thank you so much for joining me. What do you think they should go and watch now?
Come over to Snapchat, give us a watch there if you enjoyed this video, because we do make transfer news videos every 2 days.
Perfect. Thanks very much for watching, guys. We'll catch you next time. Bye.